Is Northern Virginia finally becoming a balanced real estate market, or is that just a headline? I am Alex with DCI Homes, and today I want to break down what a balanced market actually means for buyers and sellers in Northern Virginia. When people hear balanced, they sometimes assume prices are falling, buyers have unlimited negotiating power, and sellers have lost control. That is not usually what balance means here. In a high-demand region like Northern Virginia, balance often means the market is moving from extreme pressure to more normal decision-making. Think about the last few years. Many buyers had to make fast decisions, waive protections, and compete against multiple offers. Many sellers could price aggressively and still attract strong activity. A more balanced market changes the rhythm. Homes that are priced well, prepared well, and marketed well can still perform. Homes that are overpriced, poorly presented, or hard to access may sit longer than sellers expect. For buyers, a balanced market can create breathing room. You may have more time to compare homes, review disclosures, consider inspection options, and make a strategic offer. That does not mean lowballing every listing. In Vienna, Arlington, Falls Church, Reston, Alexandria, or desirable Fairfax school pyramids, the best homes can still move quickly. The difference is that not every house is automatically a bidding war. For sellers, balance means pricing discipline matters again. The first 2 weeks are still critical. Photos, staging, repairs, showing access, and launch timing can determine whether you create urgency or chase the market down with price reductions. Here is the practical takeaway. Do not ask, is the market good or bad? Ask, what is the market doing for my exact property type, price point, and neighborhood? A townhouse in Ashburn, a condo in Arlington, and a detached home in Burke can behave like 3 different markets on the same weekend. Before you buy or sell, look at active competition, days on market, list-to-sale ratios, price reductions, and contract activity in your specific micro-market. That is where the real answer is. If you are planning a move in Northern Virginia, DCI Homes can help you read the market at the neighborhood level, not just the headline level. Now let's slow this down and turn the topic into a practical, real-world guide. The reason this matters is not just that it is interesting real estate information. It affects how people make decisions with hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line. In Northern Virginia, small details can change the entire strategy. One street can have different buyer demand than the next street, one condo building can have a very different resale profile than another building nearby, and one contract deadline can change the leverage between buyer and seller. This video should help the viewer understand the shift from panic speed buying to neighborhood level strategy. Start with the real-life situation. Imagine a seller in Vienna who prices correctly and gets strong activity, compared with a similar home that overreaches and sits through 2 weekends. This is the kind of situation that looks simple from the outside, but once you begin making decisions, the details start to matter. A buyer may be thinking, can I afford this? A seller may be thinking, will buyers see the value? An investor may be thinking, does this actually make sense after expenses? And a homeowner may simply be thinking, what do I need to know so I do not make a costly mistake? That is the purpose of this episode. The first key point is local context. Northern Virginia is not one single market. Fairfax, Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, Loudoun, Prince William, Vienna, Reston, Herndon, McLean, Burke, Springfield, Ashburn, and Leesburg can all behave differently. Even within the same jurisdiction, property type changes the answer. A condo buyer is not evaluating the same risks as someone buying a detached home with an older roof. A townhouse buyer with an HOA is not making the same decision as a rural buyer with well, septic, and acreage. So when you hear a simple answer online, treat it as a starting point, not a complete strategy. Here are 3 local examples to make this more concrete. First, think about Fairfax townhome demand near commuter routes. That situation may be driven by commute patterns, school preferences, property condition, HOA rules, or inventory. Second, think about Arlington condos near Metro where monthly fees change the buyer pool. The lifestyle, rules, and buyer pool may be different. Third, think about Loudoun single-family homes where space is attractive, but commute still matters. The best decision is not always the most obvious decision. The right answer depends on the property, the timeline, the contract terms, the cash position, and the viewer's long-term plan. The second key point is that real estate decisions are usually a combination of numbers and behavior. The numbers matter. Price, payment, taxes, insurance, HOA or condo fees, repairs, closing costs, rent potential, sale proceeds, and cash reserves. But behavior matters too. Buyers get nervous, sellers get emotional, appraisals can come in lower than expected, inspection reports can sound scary. A beautiful listing can create urgency. A stale listing can create doubt. A strong negotiator understands both sides. Before making a decision, ask, what are the numbers telling me and what is the market behavior telling me? The third key point is risk management. A good real estate plan does not eliminate every risk because that is impossible. Instead, it identifies the biggest risks early and decides which ones are acceptable. In a purchase, those risks may include financing, appraisal, inspection, and title. In a sale, those risks may include pricing too high, launching before the home is ready, or allowing a contract to fall apart late in the process. A smart plan makes the risk visible before the deadline, not after. Now let's talk about the mistakes people make with this topic. Mistake number one is assuming balanced means buyers can ignore competition. This usually happens when someone relies on a headline or a short social media clip. Northern Virginia has its own rules, its own buyer behavior, and its own local price pressures. A strategy that works in another state may not work the same way here. Mistake number two is assuming one countywide statistic explains every subdivision. This mistake is easy to make because real estate feels emotional. When people want the house or want to be done with the sale, they may skip the step of slowing down and checking the details. The better approach is to ask for the supporting documents, compare the numbers, and confirm the deadlines before making a major commitment. Mistake number three is waiting for a perfect headline instead of studying active competition. This is where professional guidance matters. The goal is not to scare the viewer. The goal is to help them avoid preventable problems. Confirm details with the right professional before acting. For buyers, the practical takeaway is this: do not treat the home search as only a list of bedrooms, bathrooms, and price. Treat it as a decision system. What is the full monthly cost? What are the rules? What are the likely repairs? What is the exit strategy? How long do you plan to own it? How competitive is the property? What protections are you comfortable keeping, modifying, or giving up? A buyer who answers those questions before writing an offer is usually calmer and more strategic. For sellers, the takeaway is different but just as important. A seller's job is not only to put the property online. A seller needs to position the home so the right buyer understands it quickly. That means pricing accurately, preparing the property, making access easy, and organizing documents. Understanding likely objections and choosing the strongest offer terms, not just the highest number on page one. In Northern Virginia, the best result often comes from preparation before launch, not panic after 2 quiet weekends. For investors or homeowners thinking long-term, the question is whether the decision still makes sense under conservative assumptions. What happens if repairs are higher than expected? What happens if rent is lower? What happens if the resale timeline is longer? What happens if interest rates, insurance, taxes, or association fees change? A strong decision should not depend on the best possible scenario. It should still be reasonable if conditions are a little less perfect. Here is the viewer checklist for this topic. Number 1, compare active, pending, and recently sold homes in the same price band. Number 2, watch days on market and price reductions in your exact micro market. Number 3, evaluate condition and presentation before making pricing assumptions. Number 4, decide your negotiation strategy before the first showing. If the viewer does only these 4 things, they will already be ahead of many people who make decisions based only on emotion or rough guesses. A good way to summarize this episode is this: the right real estate decision is specific. It is specific to the county, the neighborhood, and the property type. The price point, the contract, the financing, the timeline, and the person making the decision. That is why generic advice often falls apart. The viewer does not need more noise. They need a clear process. Before we close, add one final reminder. This video is educational only. For legal, tax, lending, appraisal, zoning, or contract questions, confirm the details with the appropriate professional. Real estate content should help people ask better questions, not replace professional advice. If you are planning a real estate decision in Northern Virginia, DCI Homes can help you look at the details that actually matter. Reach out for a property-specific strategy, not a one-size-fits-all answer.